Well, I'm going to take you round Tekels Park, which belongs to the Theosophical Society in England. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the history of this beautiful estate, which is about 30 miles from London. The pictures you'll see today of it are taken in the autumn, when the autumn colours are really very beautiful here. But to go back to the history of the park, in the early part of this century, Mr. Gardner, who was the General Secretary of the English section, and several other members decided they wanted to have a centre, a Theosophical centre, somewhere near London. And they looked all round for suitable estates, and eventually they came here and they found a little group, a little cluster of pine trees set very much in the same pattern as the interlocked triangles of our seal. And when they saw that, Mr. Gardner said, "This is it, we'll buy it." Now this is a picture of Mr. Gardner taken with Mr. Sri Ram.
And Mr. Sri Ram, yes.
With Mr. Sri Ram. And Mr. Sri Ram, when he came to England, very nearly always came to visit Mr. Gardner, who lived, by the way, in the house next to the guest house, and he lived to be 100. Well, that is Mr. Gardner. Now, where I'm standing while I'm talking to you is outside the guest house, which was built in the early 1950s, 1951, when the estate was bought by a little group of members, really encouraged by Mr. Gardner. And on my left here, perhaps you'll see it presently, is one of the original old houses, which was the coach house. You will see it's a white with a crenellated top. That was the old coach house. I don't know whether you can see it perhaps. And on the other side was what originally was the old stables and the saddle room for the old pictures of Bishop Wedgwood and Leadbeater, I think, here in the picture.
And over here.
And over here, Leadbeater and Wedgwood. Because they both Wedgwood had a very close interest in this place, because it was soon after the establishment of the centre in St Michael's Hoysen, and they helped considerably in the efforts to purchase this place.
Yeah, you can talk, Marion.
What you're looking at?
We're looking now at the picture of Wedgwood and
oh yeah. Well, Bishop Wedgwood was
also a picture here of Adelaide Gardner, and this is certainly one of the important people early on, wasn't it?
Yes. Edward Gardner was the instigator of the purchase of this place.
Did Wedgwood actually live here?
Yes, Wedgwood actually lived here, and he lived in this little white house that I pointed out to you just now.
Number 10.
Number 10, yes.
Number 10.
Number
On
10.
our walks we've
yes,
known.
number
Yes.
10. And he lived there till he died.
Okay, who is the woman and the man that belong
Now, this is Mr. Gardner and
Corona True.
Corona True, who now lives right next to the guest house, doesn't she?
Yes, she does.
And
yes.
is that where Mr. Gardner lived?
That's where Mr.
Yes.
Gardner lived, yes.
And the one in the
Dr.
middle?
Corona True. Now, this is Adelaide Gardner with Mr. Sri Ram. Adelaide Gardner was one of the leading members in the English section, wasn't she?
Yes.
And,
Well, she was the wife of
she was
Edward
the
Gardner,
wife
of course.
Edward Gardner, of course, but she was also quite a person
She was General
in her own
Secretary.
right.
She was General Secretary.
And she did some writing. She wrote a book on meditation.
Meditation, yes, she did.
So,
This one here is Mr. and Mrs. Gardner, from what I
Yes.
can read.
I think that's probably about all, isn't it?
And you tell me
Yes.
this is a particularly nice one of
Oh, it's a
Mr.
particularly nice one of Mr. and Mrs. Gardner. Can I just see it a bit?
Yeah, but we're trying to
can't
keep
move
it in
it.
focus, you see.
That was during the last few years of his life when he lived down here, and most days he used to come out and walk round the park, and he was particularly interested in this lily pond that you'll see up here, and he used to take groups of students and other people around there and tell them about the wonderful life that there was beneath the waters in the lily pond. He used to love to sit on the edge of this pond and have all these little young people around him, particularly when there was a camp on, and tell them all about the water beetles and all the other life of the
that was
pond.
in the pond. So that's a particularly
There's another
lovely
one
one
there.
of Mr. Sri Ram speaking to E.L. Gardner.
Well, that's the same as
Yes,
the one we saw just now, I
yes,
think.
Well, he's better focused now. I
Who are the
think,
people
for
in
us.
the center? On top of
This one.
This
This
is
is E.L. Gardner.
This one
This
is-
is the round
Bloomfield.
table. Yes, this is the round table members. The round table has held
Yeah.
many camps here in the campsite, which I think they'll see.
That says August 1960, this photograph.
Yes, that's right. Well, you see, shall we put it down now, or does he want to do any more?
He's
the
still.
the ones on the side of the yellow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, in
All right,
19...
this is
in
Mr. Gardner
In August of 1960.
in his
yeah.
garden hut, and you'll see the garden hut as you go around.
Yeah. Well, in 1950, after the war, we opened up this place because it was soon after Bishop Wedgwood had died. And during the latter years of Bishop Wedgwood's life, we couldn't use this place because he was really rather sick. But as soon as he died, this place was opened up, and of course it coincided with the end of the war. Now this is a... Do you want
Yes.
me to-
Now,
this
would you
is a
tell us
picture-
about this?
Yes, I'll tell you a little bit about it. Not that I've ever seen it, except where it used to be. This is the castle, Tekels Castle, as it used to be called.
No, just,
Oh, well,
a bit
this
about
this
it
is a
and-
picture of the castle as it was in 1890, so that it was a castle that was built probably in the latter part of the 19th century, and we now have only the place where it used to be, because there is a rather an interesting story about the owner of the park, and that was that he was a great tree lover, and he brought lots and lots of different kinds of rather exotic and unusual trees into the park, and in the course of his life he got into financial difficulties and decided to burn the place down in order to get the insurance, which of course he didn't ever get. And the house remained a ruin until the Theosophical Society
And now
members
there's,
bought it in...
Now, did the Theosophists take it down then? Take down the ruins?
No, there was nothing left
nothing
because
left.
the local people had
had
removed
taken
it
the
stone by
stone.
stone to make houses.
use
No,
elsewhere.
there was nothing left.
But there are these steps then to where it was.
Well, we can
Yes,
see the steps of the
steps.
terraces.
Yes, the steps of the
If you look in
terraces.
the picture, you'll see there are terraces.
Terraces, and so, yes.
Well, we'll be
and
walking
But you'll walk-
about
we'll be
shortly,
walking
and we'll
about
be
and,
seeing them.
yeah.
Which is the old coach house that I mentioned just now, which is, as you see, has still the old crenellated top, which was part of the pattern of the house as well, as the
Probably the castle and
the-
so on. Yes.
and on the right over here, if you can focus on that, is the lecture hall. Whether he can
Now he
focus.
can, now he's going past the
Past-
guest house, Marion. He's going now past the guest house. This
And now
is
he's coming towards the
yeah.
lecture hall, which was a gift by a wealthy member, Miss Josephine Chambers, and it was given for the use of the Theosophical Society with added emphasis on the use of it for the co-masons and the Liberal Catholic Church. And that still stands almost exactly as it was built in those days. But the little portion at the east end of the building was put up by the Liberal Catholic Church. So that is their Lady Chapel, That's the only part of the building that belongs to the church. It's only.
And the building itself is sometimes called the Big Hall by some,
Big
and
Hall.
the church by
Well,
by
you
others.
see that.
It really should be called the Big Hall or the Large Hall.
Well, that's what we do
That's
call
what-
it.
Yes,
Oh,
but
I've heard some people refer to it
some
as the
people
church.
have referred to it as the church, but it really should not be called that.
Well, the people who call it the church hall are the people who go to the few people who go to the church. Otherwise, we call it the large hall and the lecture hall. I should tell you at this point that early in the 1960s, the original owners of this property, that was these members of the society, decided that they would make the generous gift of the estate to the Theosophical Society, and they sold it to the English section for what they had originally given for it. And in the early 60s, we had to lose quite a large portion of the estate because the government decided to put a motor road through it. However, they did compensate us considerably for it, and with that money, we were able to build this extension that you see behind me, and the lecture hall, and the two flats over the lecture hall.
And this extension is the dining room.
This extension and the kitchen are extensions of the original old stables, which were there when Mr. Gardner first came and visited it. And we're told that he spent the first night on the floor in the old stables.
Horses there.
No horses. On my right over here, you will see the original old walled garden of the estate. In certain portions, the crenellated top of the wall is the original old brick wall. But of course, over a period of 200 years, as you can imagine, it's falling to bits in places. And it costs a tremendous lot to repair it. But as you can see, it has been repaired along that north side. Well, now he's...
that is still a garden in there, isn't it?
yes, it's still a kitchen
But,
garden, but it's owned by the estate, and we rent it out or use it individually.
Individuals. Is there any produce raised in there for the guest house?
Yes, this year I picked, I don't know how many pounds of black currants from there, and we do...
And apples, I think,
And
recently,
apples.
weren't they?
We had some of
We
those.
had some of those.
We've had those in the meals, haven't you? Yes. But it's not profitable for us to entirely depend upon the kitchen
Now, while
garden.
he's zooming in here, this end is where E.L. Gardner lived.
This was, yes.
Where Dr. Corona True lives now.
Well, Mr. Gardner built this portion, this little house here, and you'll see it's all part of the same style as the guest house, and it belongs to the estate now, but Dr. Corona True has the lifetime possession of it. Across the area near the large hall, and on the right-hand side is the Rhododendron Head, which is a lovely sight in the summer with all the different coloured rhododendrons. At the moment, the colours are autumnal, as you'll see this beautiful old oak tree.
Beautiful tree.
It's a special kind of oak.
Oh, is it?
Yes, if you look at the leaves, you'll see they're very large. Not quite sure what kind it is. And in front of us, as we go along, is a little beech tree which was planted. It could...
What have you got there?
This is an oak leaf. It could be an American oak. I'm not quite sure of the variety, but it's a variety of oak tree.
It's an unusually beautiful one, isn't it?
That one is a little bit bent, but
So it's very lovely colours too.
Yes.
You see, so
Yes.
he died in the early sometime in 70s. Now we're coming on to the flat part of what obviously was one of the terraces, trees on it, but now all these trees have grown up since.
Lovely. In the summer, you have a number of benches around here, haven't you? There's only one here now, but sometimes there are benches.
Well, we have a lot of benches. Many of them have been given to us by donors through Friends of Tekels Park.
I think it would be worth trimming the grass at this point. It's more moss than
More
grass.
moss than grass, isn't that lovely? Moss.
Lovely
Really,
stuff.
really beautiful.
Bit of clover
Isn't it?
and moss.
Isn't that lovely? Soft.
Oh, here's grass. Found some.
You found some grass.
Actually, sometimes in the autumn we get quite a big crop of mushrooms along here.
Oh, really? Edible?
Oh, edible ones, yes, indeed, edible ones.
This whole
This is
area
so
is mostly
soft.
moss.
Yes. Soft.
It's different for us.
Now, if you see that, look at these two pine trees here, you must realize that that was about the middle of the old house. So that by looking in one direction, you'll see the old steps. Don't know whether you can you see the old steps and the columns at the side of them? And that is where we think the original old Tekels Castle used to stand.
I think you'll get some windows.
Old tennis court area.
Oh, look at this.
Yes, there are quite a number of those bright scarlet toadstools that you'll find here.
Those poisonous?
Oh, I would think so. I don't think you could eat it.
Got
I
spiders
would
all
hesitate to.
I would hesitate to.
over.
Yeah.
These are cute.
Yes,
They grow quite large. Sometimes we find them, I should think, about almost as big as a small football.
My goodness.
Really quite big.
Oh, there's the.
But I
There's
interrupted.
the bench in memory of Clara Codd. That's the one. In memory of Clara
That's right,
Codd.
that's Clara Codd's. Now Clara Codd, as many of you will remember, lived quite close to Tekels Park until she died. During the last years of her life she was here. And her friends collected through the Friends of Tekels Park.
Now
to
that house behind
build
there
that
is
house.
one that's Tekels Park, or is that's the Stakesby Lewis house?
That's the Stakesby Lewis house, yes.
I interrupted with my toadstool. We were heading towards the tennis
Now we're
court,
going
weren't we?
towards the, turned into an allotment during the war and has never gone back to being a tennis court. We have a garden hut here where people come during the summer and sun themselves, and it is really a very beautiful spot if you can look round at all the colours round. I'd like you to come over onto the grass if you can. Now if you turn and look in that direction, you'll see a really wonderful display of colours.
And this is the little shed, that the garden shed you called it earlier on the photographs?
Yes, that's
E.L. Gardner?
no, that's not E.L. Gardner's shed. No, we'll see.
We'll see that.
We'll see that a little later on. No, that belongs to the estate, and we have lounges in there, and people sit out.
Take the lounge out and sun out here in the warm weather. It does get warm occasionally in England.
Well, actually, that corner is very warm
Yeah.
on that terrace. I think you'll also see right in front here one of the few eucalyptus trees that there is in
that's
there.
a eucalyptus.
I think that's a eucalyptus. One kind of eucalyptus.
That tree is very interesting there as well.
Isn't that lovely?
It's a different sort of,
Different kind
looks
of
like a
pine.
cedar
It
or
looks-
something.
Yes. It's a different one.
Which one do you mean?
Right in the
The
center, right
right in
straight
front
in
of us
front of
here.
us. Yeah. It's a
The,
different kind
the
of
lighter
pine.
green
It's
one.
a different kind of pine than the
Yes,
others.
I don't know quite what one that is.
Maybe I should run out there and see if it has a little sign like the rest of the trees.
Well, it could have. One of our members has put little signs on all of them. No, I don't.
That's a large leaf cucumber tree.
Yeah. Would you
You'll
say
have to
that,
repeat it.
Marion, so he can get it, pick it up? This is a large leaf cucumber tree.
Yes, from the large leaf cucumber tree.
Yes, and it is very large leaf too. That
But it doesn't grow cucumbers.
doesn't grow cucumbers. No, it doesn't. But it's a nice shady tree, as you can see, and all the leaves are pretty large on it.
Yes.
It's one of the many kinds of trees in this park.
And it's from...
This is the ginkgo tree. This other
Well,
one.
wait a minute. I
Yeah.
just
Certainly are an interesting variety of trees here.
now I don't know whether you can can get this little tree that's standing behind me, but that one, and that is the Japanese fan tree. These leaves that I'm holding.
It's otherwise known as the ginkgo, isn't it?
These leaves are a particularly simple structure, and they don't have the normal vein structure of leaves. All the veins come from the stem, rather like a hand. It's called the Japanese fan tree, or its original name is ginkgo tree. Comes from Japan. There are not very many of them.
We have one at Alcott. but
Around
they
in this,
They really originated first in China.
Yes, it says China,
China,
1738.
Yes.
on
Yeah, they
it.
originated in China.
Yes, that's
actually.
right.
And it's one of the oldest trees in the world is the ginkgo.
It's the oldest because of the simple structure of the veins on in the leaves. I don't know whether you'd like me to tell you the story of this tree in connection with the park, but there is rather an interesting little story about it, and that is that way back when Mr. Gardner was alive, there was a little sapling growing up underneath this tree, and he said it will never grow to any size as long as it stays there. We must move it. And so he said, we will move it. And the garden expert said, but this is the wrong time of the year to grow it, to move it. But he said, don't worry, I have spoken to the father of the estate, and he's said to him, look after your little brother, it's going to be all right, we'll move it. And so he moved it, and I think we can go and see the result of it. We can see it from here, right across the meadow.
There's the little
ginkgo tree.
the little ginkgo that was moved.
That's the little ginkgo tree that was moved. And here is the father of the estate standing here looking after him,
Oh, the giant.
the giant
The giant.
Wellingtonia. Wellingtonias that were brought here. And I think you can see the enormous size of it. Though compared with the American ones,
This
it's
is a
no.
coast redwood and
Sequoia.
sequoia.
They're all sequoias, these
They're all
two.
sequoias, and this is really quite amazing. It's a small one, of course, of what we'd see.
Compared
in the
with the
United
ones you
States.
have in America.
This is really a very small one, according to the redwoods that the sequoias that. But it really is it's a marvelous example of one.
but this is the father of the trees.
This is the father.
The father of the park. No, the father of the park. And I don't know if you can see the leaf structure of this tree, but it's very, very different from the other big redwood that we'll show you in a moment or two. These leaves are quite different from the tree that we're just going to see on the next terrace.
They're rather flat and feathered.
Yes, they are.
They're flat and they're very hard and very brittle and rather prickly. But it's
very pretty.
It's very much alive, as you can see by the little things at the top of each of the leaves. You see a little tiny pale green bud, or whatever you'd call it.
No, the sequoia only reproduces by fire.
Yes.
These are only opened by fire, which is why in the Sequoia National Parks you see so many of them with burned out places, because that really helps to germinate the new ones.
Well, it's not the only way, because we have managed to grow some little seedlings in our kitchen garden.
Oh.
And we've got one or two now, or I should think about 1 or 2 feet high, that we have managed to grow from seed from these
So
trees.
just give it another couple hundred years.
Another couple of hundred years. Now, can we walk through to the next terrace and we'll see another of these, a variety of these trees. Summer house, where he used to sit so often, enjoying the sunshine, and that I think is where the picture was taken that you saw earlier. That's Mr. Gardner's. And we're now on the second terrace, and you'll see the rhododendron hedges on either side, which in the old days were down to the level of the top of the wall, so that the old house had a most wonderful view right across the valley. Now with all these trees, I'm afraid we don't get the view. But we still have, from here, a wonderful panorama of colours. And this is another Wellingtonia. And here again, if you look at the structure of these leaves, you'll see how very, very different they are from the one you've just seen. Here the branches show this pale bluey green, but they're quite different, you see, from the other variety of redwood. And also, if you notice, round the base of the tree, it's built up almost onto like a mound, and of course that is because of all the leaves or pine needles that build up round it. And if you'll just put your hand on the trunk of the tree, you'll see that it's really quite soft. It's amazingly soft. And you wonder how on earth it stands up to all the wind and the rain, but it does. And this area under the tree very rarely gets wet.
It has quite small pine cones considering the size of the tree.
Yes, they are very small considering the size of the tree. This has a very different leaf structure from the other one. Well, they all belong to the same sort of family. And now we're on another terrace, and again you'll see the wall of rhododendrons on the left. And the garden seats that Joy referred to in the little bit of sunshine, and the lily pond that we mentioned earlier on. Now this is another one called a tulip tree, and this has a very special kind of leaf too. I don't think I know any other leaf that has an inverted V, a V at the top of it, as this does. Almost geometrical in pattern. You see the right angle there and the right angle there.
That says Canada, 1650.
Canada. Comes from Canada. Well, perhaps you've got these in Canada. Do you?
Maybe in eastern Canada.
We have a lot of tulip trees in Illinois. So I think in eastern Canada, I don't know that in western Canada. Oh yes, we have them at Olcott. We have the tulip tree, and in spring it's beautiful. These tulips sort of flowers.
Oh, I don't think this ever has any flowers.
Oh, it should.
It's not that. No, it's a different kind of tulip tree then.
It's the same leaf. It's the same leaf.
Don't think this ever has flowers on it.
Maybe you don't have enough.
I know the one. I know the one you mean. Yes.
It's the same leaf.
It's interesting that so many different trees were brought in here.
Yes, isn't it?
It makes walks interesting, certainly.
It does.
And that is a drooping cherry tree here, which is a wonderful sight
Lovely.
in the summertime.
It must be.
Oh, it blooms, I imagine.
Oh yes, it's covered with pink blooms in the late spring, early summer.
Where was this one imported from?
I don't know that this was imported. I think this was.
Not a sign. I'll sneak. Japanese cherry.
Yeah, I thought
Yes.
so. I don't think the cherry would be native to England.
No, it wouldn't be
Japan,
native, but
1822.
Yeah, it wouldn't be native to England. So.
it was not. It was not purchased by the original old
No.
owner. It was.
No.
It was put here within the last few
The
years.
Japanese cherry, 1822. The sign says.
It's a lovely sight
Japanese
there.
cherries are beautiful.
And here's the lily pond.
The lily pond.
I'm afraid it hasn't got any fish in it because we find the herons or other birds come and take them. And I doubt if it has many frogs or tadpoles because the children come and take them. But we do have some very pretty lilies.
There was one blooming here the other
Yes,
day.
there was
I don't
one
see
blooming.
now.
You get a beautiful view up through here and of the old steps, don't you?
Yes, you see right up
Right up
through.
the two
Right up to
terraces.
the two terraces.
It gives you some idea of the expanse that there must have been in front of the old house. You see, you're aware of 3 levels of terraces here now.
Not a very good idea to stand on the edge of this one.
Don't fall in. I'd rather not fall in today.
Very slippery. I just lost all bravery that
After the war, when Europe had been devastated by Hitler and his army, and the members in Europe were at very low ebb, and Mrs. Gardner, who was the General Secretary at the time, organized the first European Congress after the war here in Tekels Park. And at the same time we decided that we would open up and try and encourage young people to come here, and we built on the next terrace down what has come to be known as the Theosophical Camp. And on that occasion we had large numbers of young people from Holland and Belgium, France and other countries, and we also had a visit from Rukmini Devi on that occasion. Now you're walking down towards the camp field and you'll see the 2 huts ahead of you.
It's one of the houses.
Now that house was the house that Mr. and Mrs. Stevenson two of the original purchasers of the estate built. It's now occupied by Mr. and Mrs. Coulsting. And if we come round this way, you're going to see something that everybody last night didn't see, and that is the site of the bonfire that we intended to show you last night, and which was built up by Mr. Hay with some difficulty. And
he was a little put out.
He was a little put out that we didn't come down, I'm afraid. But still, we'll have it on November the 5th. Now, we're standing now, really, right in the middle of the campsite, and all round, the whole area, all round is where the tents are placed when we have a big camp. Sometimes there's a round table camp with hundreds of small children. Unfortunately, we don't have as many theosophical discussion camps as I would like, but it's a very lovely setting for a camp. And the hut with the green roof was put up almost entirely by the campers with the help of the workmen on the estate.
That, Rochelle.
On the other terrace, I ventured off a little and came to the Indian bean tree.
That's another one of these very large leafed trees that we have
And it
here.
feels exactly like a regular bean plant.
It does,
like
yes.
we have at home anyway. It's soft and furry.
I can assure you it doesn't have beans on it.
It doesn't, it's like a cucumber tree.
No, it doesn't have beans.
You have a cucumber tree with no cucumber, a bean tree with no beans.
But this one really does look like a bean
But
leaf.
it does look like, yeah.
It's exactly like a bean leaf.
Yes, but much larger.
Can I zoom in?
Okay.
No.
Unfortunately,
But you know,
you've
the
missed
pattern
tree.
is really beautiful, isn't it? And the glistening of the...
Well, it's wet right now.
That's the
now,
May I turn it over here and show you the soft fuzzy side?
Yeah. Almost transparent as places.
Just a bean gone wild.
Had originally 3 monkey puzzles in the park. One was on the site of Mr. Stexby Lewis's house, and it unfortunately was cut down. This is the second one. This is the largest one.
This is a very large monkey puzzle tree.
It's a very large one. And the other one is at the bottom end of the meadow. I don't know whether we should get down as far as that. Did you see that?
Well, we've walked around.
Oh, you've
the
walked
grounds.
around there, yes.
That one is really large at the bottom there.
Yes, they're both pretty
This is
large.
a wonderful monkey puzzle.
Monkey puzzle. That's not the official name.
No,
for
I
it.
don't know what
No,
its
I don't know
official
the
name
official
is.
name, but that's what it's known as.
It's certainly a strange tree.
Yes.
And actually, the base of it looks like an elephant's foot.
Yes, it is. It's very strange. I don't think you ought to take a picture here of the back of this hut. No, no.
It's not connecting.
No, I don't think so.
I think they take that back.
That smoke coming up.
Oh, there's smoke. Okay.
Oh, well, now if you look right across the meadow to the clump of fir trees there, those were the trees that I mentioned earlier, which are set in the form of a circle, rather like the interlaced triangles with one in the middle. And it is said that Mr. Gardner, when he saw those trees, decided that this was the place, and they decided to buy it.
Well, we'll work our way down to have a closer look.
We'll have, yes, well, if we walked down the path, because I'm afraid the meadow is very wet. Now, this meadow is unique, so we're told, in this district, and every year we have to mow it, but we always keep one area and a different area every year, so that we've got, it's growing up naturally, and we have a chance, it gives a chance to the insects and the flowers, the wildflowers, to grow. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of rabbits that have taken possession of the bottom of the meadow, and we've also got badgers on the estate. And not very long ago, we spotted some little deer in the park.
Oh, really?
So we think there are 2 or 3 deer, and there are badgers, foxes, rabbits, and many, many different kinds of birds that you'll see in the meadow at different times of the day. As we approach the meadow, you'll begin to get the noise of the motor road, because the motor road is over behind the trees in the far end of the meadow.
It's a beautiful spot for a nice area to come for walks.
Oh, it's a beautiful area for walks. At one time we used to have a pond right down at the bottom there, but that went when we had to have this motor road coming across.
Oh, a few details about the path.
About the path,
He's
man.
got it on.
Oh, well, the path here, we're on the edge of the estate. On the right-hand side, it's private property now. There are houses there. And on the left-hand side is the meadow. We do allow local residents to come and walk their dogs through the meadow. That's good. And this path goes all the way round the meadow.
This is holly, I suppose.
Those are little holly seedlings, yes. It's quite a big tree, actually. It's quite a big holly
Oh,
tree.
look at the lovely little bird in it, in the tree. Can you get that, Ernie? The little orange something.
It's a tit, I think.
Is it? It sounds like that's the noise it's making, but...
What a lovely little bird.
And he wants to be filmed. Oops.
No, it's a tit, I think, or a back. So here we come into quite a different kind of little woodland glade. The trees are all smaller, and usually when the sun's shining through it, it really looks beautiful.
Oh, and here's another one of the sequoias, is it?
Yes, this is another. This is similar to the one the last one
The
we saw.
Wellingtonia,
Yes,
the Sierra redwood.
yes. This is a similar type of tree to the one we saw. I don't think it's quite as big as the one we...
And here's a home for a badger.
Yes, I don't know whether you can take those holes. They're enormous holes. Over there you'll see the dark patch. That is there's a badger setts.
Madeline used to feed the badger.
She still does, yes.
Does she still do it?
Well, I don't know what she does now. She's ill, I'm sure.
It used to be fun to be there in the evening when she'd put it out and the badgers would come.
Head, you'll see this little woodland glade I was talking about.
Marion, this is such a different feeling, this
Well, that's
grove.
what I was saying just
Yes.
now. That there's quite a different...
It's a different feeling, as though it's sort of different from the whole estate.
Yes, I've always called this the fairy glen.
Yes,
because
it does. You feel like there are a lot of little happy, happy sprites.
It's a part of the estate that I like very much just over here.
Yes. Yes, I think I would like this if I lived here. I think I'd have myself a seat down here.
The estate extends quite a long way round over here to the right, and all the trees are smaller, and as you say, there's a light sort of feeling about it.
Yeah.
In the centre here, there are quite a lot of old yew trees.
Were these planted here? They seem to almost be in rows.
Oh, I would think they must have been planted, some of them.
Well, the circle of yew trees
looks as being planted. I think they must have been planted there.
They start right at the ground.
Yes.
It's not like a regular...
No, it's very different.
Just recently we lost one of the American oak trees, and we think it was about 150 years old.
Oh.
So it's...
down here?
no, not here. It's up behind the
up
kitchen
behind.
garden.
Oh.
It crashed down, one branch of it crashed down in a gale, and then unfortunately we had to have the whole thing down, and we saw that it was rotten in the middle and it was dangerous.
We
Now,
were walking and saw that.
on our left over here is the little clump of fir trees I referred to earlier on. I'd like you to go across to them if you will. I'm afraid it may be a bit wet. We tried to start another clump of these trees. You can see one or two there, or the only two that have
You didn't talk to the father tree.
We obviously didn't talk to the father of the tree, of the park.
There's bunny evidence.
But here are 6 trees with the one in the middle.
Oh, yeah. This is the interlaced triangle.
Yes. And here's the... And this is what Mr. Gardner said.
This was the place.
This is the place.
This is the place.
This is the place. And the campers used to like this. They used to come down here in the early morning and have their morning meditation here.
Yes. Well, it would be a lovely place.
In the summer, it's it's a lovely spot.
You get the roar of the motorway, which used to be part of the property, but now is the motorway. And the further you get down here, the more you get that roar, sort of.
Yes, it depends a bit on.
You don't notice it.
It depends a bit on the wind.
Yes, I suppose.
And we're fortunate insofar as the motorway is in a sunken area.
Yes.
And unfortunately, in 1976, there was a drought, and we had a very bad fire, which burned all the trees all along by the motorway. Nobody knows whether it was a cigarette or what it was that started it. But since then we've been building it up and allowing the trees to grow as they like, more or less, along there. And it is building up quite a sound barrier at the moment.
It is.
There's a beautiful tree just right
And there's
in
a
the
lovely
middle
tree here in the middle, and it's in full colour at the moment.
Is that an oak?
I think that is another kind of oak, yes, I think so. And there are some more fir trees across, pine trees across at the other end of the meadow.
That's heather.
That's heather. At one time this meadow used to be covered with heather, but one of our members had children with ponies, and he paid to have all this meadow fenced in so that the ponies could stay in the park, and most of the heather disappeared. Now it's just beginning to come back again. We're encouraging it.
So heather and ponies don't necessarily...
They don't seem to mix.
No.
Now over the far, if we can see down here, this is where the other monkey pottle is. Down in the other far corner there. They're just to the right, I think you'll find it.
Was this area cleared, or was it always?
No,
just
it was always like this. Is natural. It's a natural open meadowland. And if you look right across to the far end of the meadow, that's where, unfortunately, all the rabbits and the badgers are making lots of holes in the ground.
You can see that, yeah.
But you can see it, and I'm very much afraid it's going to encroach on the meadow unless we're careful. I think too, if you look here, you'll see there's a very green patch down across here, and I think there's an underground river there because it's always green. There are lots
It
of
looks
underground
like,
waters.
Almost looks like a road.
It does look like a road almost, doesn't it?
But it isn't. It's just there, and that's it.
It's just there. We keep it mowed, of course, now because it is a useful path for the trucks to come across. But I've also heard, I don't know how true it is, but I've also heard that there is a ley line coming right through here.
Really?
Yes, I wouldn't be
You're not too far
surprised,
from
but
Stonehenge here, and there are a lot of ley lines that converge
I
there.
wouldn't be a bit surprised if
Yeah.
there were a ley line.
well, I've heard it said that there's a ley line through the park, but I really don't know. But as you stand here, we're really more or less in the middle of the park. It looks like an enormous circle of trees all around, doesn't it? All sorts of different colours.
It's wonderful to have this much open area,
Open air.
this meadow.
Area.
It really is. It's marvelous.
Oh yes, it was marvelous to take a little walk after the last class to just sort of air out our
Unwind,
brain cells.
I mean, you really can air out here too. You know, it's just wonderful.
Guy Stevenson used to live in. It looks a lot, it's quite a large house, but it's made to look larger by the wings on either side. Makes it look a much bigger house than it is. And that is more or less in the middle of the estate. It's a wonderful setting.
Oh, and that's the one that you were mentioning,
That's where the Stevensons lived.
and where the Coolstings are
And
now.
the Coolstings live there now, yes. We're coming to the end of the meadow now, and you'll see across the top of the hedge the white walls of one of the blocks of flats that belongs to the park,
St. Albans. Is
St.
that
Albans.
St. Albans?
St. Albans Flat.
We just-
And I don't know whether you can get a glimpse of the house through there.
Got a corner of that house.
That house in the corner there is the house that the ES have just bought, and which is going to be the headquarters in England. Can you see that little portion of the house through the trees? All this land right round to the corner belongs to the portion that they have just bought. And on the right, as we come out of the meadow, is the road that was originally the main entrance to the park from the Portsmouth Road before the motor road was put up.
Which is my particularly favourite area to walk.
Was it?
Yes, yes, we really enjoyed walking through this lane. And it has all the little nutty things that
Oh,
fell
well,
off
down
the
at the
beech trees.
bottom,
Yeah.
down at the bottom there are some of the eating chestnuts.
Oh, is that what those
Yes,
are?
they're
Those prickly things?
Yes,
They look like
that's
little porcupines
No.
rolling out of the
Yes,
trees?
yes.
no,
Open
no,
those
no,
up.
they are eating chestnuts.
I didn't dare touch one in
Now
case
you
it
open them up.
They're perfectly, they're all right. We often
Very
have
right.
chestnut.
I pay a fortune for chestnuts around
Yes.
Christmas at home.
Well, that's quite a lot of them down through there.
Yes, I know. That's a
Typical,
very
typical
picturesque.
English that you get in novels. Oh yes, you're across the roasted chestnuts at Christmas time
Oh,
and so on,
yes.
and very typically English stories.
And so Joy was just mentioning to me, we were ahead of you, the ES is moving their headquarters here.
That's what yes, I
Yes,
said
yes.
that. Yeah. That it's not
It's that-
not here,
not this
over there.
one, but
Oh,
that one, the
that one over there.
Saracens, the next one,
Oh,
not
the
this.
next
This
one.
is a block of flats, isn't it?
Oh,
you
right,
said?
yeah.
No, I think Ernest managed to get a shot of it from back there.
We've come full circle,
We've
haven't
come
we?
Now
full
we've-
circle.
Now we've come full circle and we're on the road leading back towards the old coach house, or the other side of the old coach house, and the back of the guest house.
or just plain raspberry?
Blackberries.
Blackberries.
No, they're blackberries. We get quite a lot of blackberries here in the autumn.
Oh, and that's heather again?
That's heather and that's gorse.
It's
Gorse.
what?
Gorse.
Gorse.
It's
Can you
usually...
touch that without getting in trouble?
Yes, but it's very prickly.
Very prickly.
But it's not poisonous?
No, it's not poisonous. It
How do
has
you spell that?
G-O-R-S-E.
G-O-R.
And usually it's covered with yellow flowers.
Yes, it's yellow.
So it's probably quite pretty as well?
There's a saying we have it, when gorse is out of blossom, kissing's out of fashion. And that's because it really does bloom all the year round.
Oh,
Or some trees.
Well,
Some
these
of the bushes.
aren't.
No, those aren't.
But you can tell where they did.
Well, it's all ready to bud out.
Start all over.
At the other end of the park where Marion lives, in the Heights, as it's known, a set of flats up there belong to the park, don't they?
Well, most of the houses on the right of the path as we walk up do not belong to the park. They're all private houses. They've been sold, unfortunately,
Which is too
to
bad.
other people.
But there are other houses up around the other side that we haven't walked through.
So the actual
nice.
boundary of the park is with this fence line?
No, the boundary of the park goes right along the bottom there, right a long way
So
out.
they
there.
have private homes still within the boundary.
Well, some of these were sold, unfortunately, to people not Theosophists, not part of the park. And so it's gone out of the hands, which is too bad.
Now that house that you see there was, I nearly bought it at one time. I could have bought it for £3,000. Now it's worth over 100,000, I think.
It's a large home.
It's got a beautiful big, the downstairs room, it's only a bungalow, the downstairs room has a big sitting room there with that window up there in it. So it's got a very large high ceiling. It's a very large room.
Sun pouring in.
Now you can see the old White House very nicely from this area.
It's where the Dutters live.
Yes.
And that's where Bishop Wedgwood
And that's
used
where
to live.
Bishop Wedgwood used to live, yes.
Oh, for the lovely holly hedges. You have to watch how you say that.
Yes. Isn't that nice? It's a beautiful holly.
I wish we had some of these holly hedges round the estate boundary because we've had great difficulty in keeping people from coming in and breaking our fences.
Well,
Oh, really?
That
Yes.
would really keep them out. You don't easily go through a holly hedge.
No, it looks like a little jungle in there, prickly besides.
Prickly is.
And we're getting near to the
Nearer to the guest
guest house.
Now we're the
This
other
is the
side of
office.
the
Of the,
block of flats and the lecture hall.
and this is the little office.
Does this
Estate-
office look
estate
after the
office.
rentals of
Estate
the...
office.
Yes, it looks after all the rents and the secretaries uses that.
Where does Barbara live?
Barbara has a little the back of the...
If you ask where Barbara lives,
Well, Barbara lives in the house that was originally built for Mr. Sullers, who was the
Oh, the garden.
gardener.
it's on the other side of the garden.
Oh, yes, I heard
Right across, yes.
past that brick wall.
And these are two flats, but the one at the top belongs to the estate, but the one underneath belongs to the lady called Penny. You've met. She's always helps us with the accounts in the office. She's always in the office, the little old lady.
Yes, yes.
Well, she and her friend built the other one. Well, they all belong to the dad, but it comes back to the estate when she goes. And you can see it's all being built in the same sort of style as the guest house. So that
Which is rather nice.
which
It
is
all
really,
blends in,
we
yeah.
want eventually, we eventually would like to get that back again because we need very badly need accommodation for our assistant manageress, for instance.
Mm-hmm. It would be very handy to be in the same building as...
And of course it goes through, you see, at the top floor, there's a door through from this flat into the guest house, so it's all part of the same building.
So the society had fallen on, not the society, but the Tekels Park Association, for lack of a better word, ran into a bit of financial difficulties, did they? And sold some parts off?
No, we never sold any parts off. But we got the money from the motor road, and we built these flats here, and the lecture hall, and this was offered to this old lady when she and her friend wanted to come and live here, because we had the idea that it would be a good idea for members to come and purchase land here. And at one time, of course, it was all leasehold, and it had to come back to the society. But unfortunately, a government, not very long ago, lowered the ceiling, and the land that had previously couldn't be made leasehold is now leasehold. We've lost the lease.
You've lost the lease.
And now it becomes it's become freehold.
Freehold. And so
all these houses along here, all the houses along here.
I think what Rogel is saying, Marion, is that these houses were sold off, as it were, not by Tekels Park, but by the people who had been...
Yes, well, you see, they originally, these members...
whatever.
Well, originally they were, the people who built the houses were members who wanted to live here, you see. And we hoped that they would eventually come back to the park. But their children weren't so interested, or when they died, they sold them. But they have to offer them to the society first. They can't sell them without offering them to us first. But of course there are not so many people with hundreds of thousands of pounds
to be able to purchase them. So they've
unfortunately.
Gradually they've gone out of the park property.
I see.
But this one here, part of the estate, when she was allowed to build it.
There's the mailbox in the wall. How do they get the mail out of there?
Oh, there's a key.
I know, I'm being a little facetious.
It goes through the other side of the wall, Rogel.
You would almost
You have to go in and get it.
I sometimes wonder if they ever...
How does the mailman crawl in there?
I sometimes wonder if they ever come and take any letters from you. It's always got number 2 on the thing, which is 11:30 in the morning, but he's supposed to come in the early morning and pick up the letters.
Is that number? No, I think
it's got number one now, Marion. It's got number 1. You see?
It's usually number 2.
Well, it's got number 1 now.
Well, that means number 1 on Monday morning, not today. Now we're on the north side of the kitchen garden, and you'll see the top of the wall has been repaired, but the bottom part of it is still the old brick. Or if you look at the bricks, you'll see that it's wearing rather badly.
These nails in the brick are for the flowers?
For the flowers, yes. For rose trees, or some of these espalier trees. There's a pear tree here.
These have been dug up only since we've been here.
Yes,
yes they have.
Seems to me this was covered just last week.
Yes, it was,
just
yes.
This last week it's been
Now it has to be dug up and prepared and planted for bulbs. If you come here in April, you'll find there's an absolute mass of daffodils all along here. That's a pear tree.
Pear tree. It's growing flat.
Well, it's an espalier tree. That's what they call it, espalier.
Oh.
The branches of the trees are made to go that way.
So even if it wasn't against the wall, it would still grow that way?
No.
It's made to do that.
If you like to look inside the kitchen garden, I'll show you some more that are freestanding, but they still have the branches.
This one is really thorny.
That's a rose tree. Rose bush.
So we don't have anything that grows that large at all.
These are rose bushes.
No wonder it's thorny.
into the garden.
This is the kitchen garden. Now there are the trees, you see. This is the kitchen garden. And different people have plots. And if you look here, you'll see these are espaliered apple trees. And over here in front of me is the orchard, where some of you, I think, came the other day and picked apples.
You didn't pick them all, do you see? There's still some up there.
No, they haven't picked them all.
They didn't do so well.
They're slightly sour right off the tree, aren't they? But
Well, they're not supposed to be anything else but, because they're cookers. But they've still got a lot more to pick.
I can't believe this. It's the end of October, and there
Now
are
you
still
can
apples
see
in
over
the
the
tree.
wall where Barbara's house is.
Oh, I see. That's her
Barbara's.
house.
That's Barbara's house.
Right over
And if you look out, I don't suppose you can see it as a gap, but that's where this large tree of 150 years
Fell.
fell. And it was as big as that one. It was as big as that one. And it was there in the middle of that gap. Now you asked me just about these plots for the guest house. Well, that's a plot that Mrs. Clayman is preparing for the potatoes. Do you see there at the top? And she also has quite a big area for currant bushes.
So you plant potatoes now?
Well, she's preparing the ground for them.
Oh, I
you
see.
She's preparing the ground
For next spring.
for next spring. And over here you'll see we're preparing the ground for a new project that we've got, and that is a new orchard. We're going to have this area as another young orchard, because these trees are very old. They are autumn raspberries. Just a minute, Kay. Keep back.
Yeah, so
We're taking a video, so
taking a video here.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The raspberries.
they're autumn raspberries.
End of October.
Autumn raspberries.
I don't think you got that. You'll have to do a repeat performance.
They grow quite big, but they don't taste very
There you
very
are.
good.
Do it again.
End of October.
Off the
raspberries.
vine, yes. I
Right
guess
off
they're
the
not called
vine.
vines. Off the bush.
Bush.
That is, as you are panning round now towards those pine trees there, those are on the edge of the estate on the north side. But those houses that the white houses, are private houses. Unfortunately now. By the way, the one that you've just passed, that one back there, was built by Clara Codd's sister, her youngest sister. This whole side of the guest house was built at the same time as the lecture hall and the other flats that I told you about when we got money from the motor road. So it has a little more imposing entrance than it used to have. Are you going in, or do you want to go round? We come into the guest house, and this is the information department. Barbara is the manageress of the guest house.
Hello,
And
everybody.
she's just had a very busy time.
You've just
It's
had.
been a busy time, but Oh, they've all gone
Yeah,
now.
'cause it seems very empty right now, doesn't it?
It's very
sort of
empty.
a breather between, but you do have frequent.
Well, we
We
have
have a 4-day breather, and then we have another conference coming in.
we have mostly weekend conferences, but for the last fortnight we've had the European School of Theosophy here, which has been a very busy time for everybody. Now they've all gone and it seems quite empty.
Absolutely empty.
But still, next weekend will come and we shall be full again.
That's right. There are ongoing seminars all the time, either yoga or healing, sometimes Theosophy. So I hope that you're all going to come and join us.
Is Philippa the only one in the kitchen today?
Thank you.
So this is, now we're actually standing in the place where we started from, which was the old stable of the original old house that was here. I don't know whether you can look up at the paneling, the wood beams across the top, because they are the original old beams of the stables. And this room that we're standing in was the original old stable. And the lounge room that's ahead of us there was the saddle room. When we got the money from the motor road, we built the extension that is beyond the archway here.
And we've come full circle.
We've come full circle, yes.
Well, thank you very much for having taken the time from your busy schedule to guide us through the grounds.
Well, we're very
We
happy to do
appreciate
that.
it.
We're already linked with members all over the world. We've linked up with Crotona. We are friends of Crotona as well as friends of Tekels.
Tekels Park.
And we have members out in Australia. And I hope we can call you friends of Tekels Park
Well, I think
as
you
well.
may. So we really appreciate you both taking the time to walk the grounds with us.
Wonderful.
Joy for the color commentating and
And I can,
Marion for the details.
well, I can assure you a warm welcome for any of your members who come over here. We're very happy.
Well, we've been made very welcome, and